This episode is brought to you by Baked by Melissa. Finding the perfect gift can feel impossible, and if you want something that's thoughtful and fun and guaranteed to make people smile, Baked by Melissa is a great go-to. They are bite-sized cupcakes that are such a crowd pleaser. I just posted about them on Instagram this week because they're a great gift for others, but I get them for myself because it's literally like sometimes all I want is just like a bite of dessert or a bite of several desserts. Each bite-sized cupcake gives you the perfect ratio of cake, stuffing, icing, and topping. New flavors introduced every month. They have 3 unique holiday gift boxes, perfect for all of your holiday gifting, like hostess gifts, sending to loved ones across the country, treating your team, your clients. The cupcakes are made entirely by hand and ship fast and arrive in 1 to 2 days nationwide. They have gluten-free options, vegan options, no nut options. They make it so easy to treat everybody you love. They even have Life of a Showgirl cupcakes for your local Swiftie. You deserve a little treat. I deserve a little treat. We all deserve a little treat. If you want to treat yourself or the ones you love this holiday season, look no further than Baked by Melissa's delightful bite-sized cupcakes. Right now, Baked by Melissa is offering our listeners 20% off your order at bakedbymelissa.com/BeThereIn5. That's bakedbymelissa.com/BeThereIn5 for 20% off your order. bakedbymelissa.com/BeThereIn5. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Be There in 5 podcast. I'm Kate Kennedy, your host. I suppose today is the Be There in 5 Christmas Spectacular, though next week would make more sense. I think we're going to talk about the Eras Tour docuseries. There's only 2 episodes coming out. I'm hoping it's enough material to chew on. Alas, we'll see. I am typically able to do recaps longer than the material itself, so I have high hopes. But I wanted to do something holiday related as we usually do. And this year, I kind of foolishly thought we could take on a topic for fun in the name of all things holly and all things jolly. As you know, I feel strongly about Christmas cheer, but I didn't know that this particular topic was met with such Christmas disdain, such Christmas fear. Okay, first of all, I should start by saying if you're listening and there's like kids around, turn this off, because we will be talking about the holidays in the context of jolly old Saint Nick and a cohort of narky, pointy-eared pals he's deployed in millions of homes around the world. I also, when I was doing research about this topic, I learned this from a harrowing news story about Lara Spencer of flea market flip fame. Talented host, great legs, god-awful taste in a vintage credenza. Are they gone? Bye. See you later, kiddos. She talked about Elf on the Shelf on GMA, not as if it were like a mystical, magical elf like parents have to, but like reported on it, not in a way that was kid-friendly, and she had to like do a public apology. And I'm like, as parents, we need to acknowledge that even if things are kid-friendly, it doesn't mean they're for kids, you know? I, on an unassuming, Tuesday or Wednesday in November, put out an Instagram story that said, hey, moms, I need some shelf help. What's the vibe with Elf on a Shelf? It really looks like a toy on the top with like a decently manufactured noggin. But what I don't feel like enough people are talking about is, why is the elf like a toy on the top, but waist down like loses the plot, loses the patellas? I understand it needs to like wrap its limbs around things, but like it doesn't even have feet. It has nubbins. I just think that like the whole don't touch it thing under the guise of Christmas magic is actually kind of a suspicious quest to minimize the cost of goods sold and not manufacture like a decent elf that is more than some pipe cleaner project. It doesn't have kneecaps like Carolyn Calloway. My son's, he's a little over 2. He's way too young for this, but he loved decorating the Christmas tree, and he likes the lights and the cartoonish idea of Santa, and he loves the songs. And I'm just such a Christmas forward person, like many of us are who are cozy chasers, that I was like, yeah, why not engage him early with the lore? And so I was thinking, since I have like crafts, maybe I'll have the elf swing by now and again. We'll like introduce the concept. I'm always running out of things to do on like Saturdays. Maybe he'll swing by. We can go on a scavenger hunt around the house for said elf. IDK. I just was going to approach it very flexibly. I asked you guys, thinking this would be a throwaway Instagram story. Like, hey gang, what's the vibe? How do you feel about Elf on the Shelf? I thought responses would be like, oh, some people do it, some people don't. Love it, hate it. But what I found were responses that would imply that this is a slippery slope that becomes so inflexible, a source of comparison across children. Some people liken it to creating a standard in your house that normalizes a police state. I got hundreds, if not over 1,000 responses on Instagram. And I learned time and time again that I am always wrong about what I think are neutral parenting questions. There's a lot of like, oh yeah, we do it, or just like, nah, we skip it type of, casual approaches, but like there was also a lot of multi-paragraph essays about like surveillance capitalism, about childhood trauma, the invisible labor of motherhood, about class inequality, religious theology, the concept of teaching kids an old man or elf, whatever, watches them sleep. And one person told me about their daughter's friend whose elf brought an all expenses paid trip to Disney as a gift, which then created a devastating moment when her own daughter expected the same thing. Someone's nephew had a full-blown panic attack at age 4 because he touched the elf and thought he'd ruin his life. I'm scrolling through the responses to the Instagram posts in the question box, the short ones, even though I haven't read all the emails yet. But like they say, don't do it. Don't do it. It's a trap. Don't do it. It's exhausting. Don't take it that seriously. Make your own rules. We move it each night. We have fun finding it. Don't do it. The pressure is stupid. Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a mom flex for socials. Wait till your kids are older. It's too competitive and causes mom comparing. We love it. It's cute. Don't overthink it. I'm worried about other kids who don't have an elf and wonder where it is. I refuse to do it. Don't do it. Do it. It's not so bad. If you forget to move the elf, just say there was a blizzard in the North Pole. I will never do this. I'm a behavioral psychologist and that elf sucks. More mess. Boo. I hate the idea of surveillance. It's a trap. Normalizing a police state creates a surveillance state. Fuck that shit. Soft intro to being surveilled. A slippery slope to leprechaun traps. God, no, it's awful. Don't start. I'm dreading it. More about surveillance, more about privacy, something about being a narc. A lot of people who think it's fun and cute and silly and enjoy a little bit of whimsy labor. So today we're doing somewhat of a deep dive on Elf on the Shelf, but not like should you do it or not judging how parents approach this, but talking about what this manufactured tradition reveals about us as people, as parents, as millennials. Like, reading these submissions, I was like, this has kind of everything and nothing to do with the elf on said shelf, and everything to do with how this creature made of felt has impacted how you felt about yourselves as a parent, as moms, as makers of meaning and magic, and as millennials trying to figure out how to parent in the surveillance age, where I think we have like a level of abstract uneasiness and discomfort with how much of a departure our kids' childhoods are from our own, given that there are many ways they and we are always being watched all the time. And this technology operates under the guise that it helps, but in many ways it makes us more anxious, as every parenting self-help on our shelf now analyzes. We're producing anxious kids as a result, and it's hard to know the right way to do things, but there isn't one, yet we chase it because the information age has us living in a fire hose of tips and tricks that do everything to convince us that minor adjustments to every single fucking interaction we have with our kids matters in a way that is big, but does it? Are our instincts that unreliable? Or are traditions not good enough or established enough that we've had to resort to a bed in a bag family tradition in the form of a consumer packaged good that isn't selling a product as much as it's selling an entire tradition that was made up for us, and we feel we're hostage to the rules and regulations of, whether by way of other parents in a classroom or by the literal book? And I feel like I'm doing spoken word poetry about Elf on a Shelf, but I just have a lot of questions and feelings and thoughts and things, and I don't know what we'll get into on this episode, but we are talking about Elf on a Shelf, and God damn it, we are going to have a good time. If you're new here, welcome. Interesting episode to choose for the first one. Be There in 5 is a long-form podcast on purpose, where we explore, we ramble, we crowdsource and half give my opinions, and it's an honor to keep you company. And this is a very tricky subject, but I just thought we'd try. I was not expecting people to feel that strongly about it, because it seemed kind of like an extra Christmas tradition thing you can choose to do or choose not to do. You know, growing up, it's like, not all Santas were created equal. I mean, listen, I had a friend down the street. Her house was virtually an Architectural Digest tour of all of the finest furnishings of American Girl dolls. She would get every hot Christmas item, your Tickle Me Emos, your Razor Scooters, your Furbies. Her mom got a second Furby because she waited in line and I believe gave it to my Santa, which blew my effing mind because I didn't even think to ask for a Furby, given I've always been a nervous child who felt uncomfortable at the idea of a doorbuster deal. I would never forgive myself if a loved one perished, rushing the entrance of a Kohl's. But I just don't recall a lot of kindergarten hand-wringing over like why some people's version of Santa got them like better or worse things. And I feel like my family, my immediate family growing up, we were the like far away family from the rest of like my mom's big Irish Catholic family, for example, who all like gathered around the holidays, and there was like a million cousins and aunts and uncles. But we like did the holidays with just the 5 of us. And they were honestly, and my grandmother on my dad's side. And it was really special, really sweet. And my brother, sister, and I all are like so intense and inflexible about Christmas cheer, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. It's not. Christmas cheer, we all know, doesn't come out of thin air. Behind every, nostalgic, warm Christmas memory is a woman who hasn't slept since Thanksgiving. And now I understand that invisible labor element, and I'm deeply grateful. But it's also like, I think, a level of labor that we kind of enjoy. And I don't think we take into account personal preference enough when we talk about motherhood standards, as we discussed in the hobbies episode. Like, moms are held to impossible standards in general, but the ones that are like associated with being intrinsically maternal or motherhood related, that have a lot more to do with like skill and interest level, bother me, because it makes people who like performing creative labor seem like annoying and they're doing it just to be performative. And it makes people who hate doing creative labor feel inadequate, or like they're not doing enough, or their kids are going to be disappointed, when like you bring so many other things to the table and you don't need to do this bullshit you don't even like doing if you're dragging through it, I'm honestly turned off by a lot of the content. I feel like it can get a little weird. And like the thing that makes me uncomfortable, and this is rich coming from me who has an internet career, like there's a whole cottage industry of elf content on Instagram where people are staging these like increasingly elaborate scenes. Sometimes they're gross, sometimes they're strange, sometimes they're fully violating and would traumatize me as a child. And it's like, I don't mean to judge, but I'm going to judge in some cases. And like, if you're doing this for your kid and to see a smile on their face in the morning, I love that. That's what it should be about. I like and find value in a lot of parenting related content, but some stuff that's like so performative for the algorithm in the name of your kids having fun, when I just don't know if that's what it's about, like makes me sad. And I also hate the word naughty, so that's hard for me. When I see like a caption that's like, Jingles was so naughty last night, it's like, what? Like, I'm Samantha. Like, who are you talking to? And what are you talking about? I don't like it. It's weird. And I don't know. It's just the mischief part of it freaks me out. Anyways, do whatever you want for your kids to have fun. Make it as weird as you want. But if you're doing it for Instagram, like, I get it. We pick and choose what we want to post about, like our family life or parenting or kids or whatever. Like, I literally have a public Instagram and podcast, and I'm talking about parenting now. I'm not saying don't share your life. I'm just saying, like, this type of stuff makes me want to like check my motivations. And yeah, I think I don't get much out of like, damn, that's a nice bounce house at that kid party. So like, that's not the type of stuff I like will feel particularly inspired to be putting out there, maybe once they get older. But yeah, some of these people, I don't know. It's also hard to niche down and get well known for something and then like have to keep one-upping yourself in that category. And I just hope that they ask Jingles this year for Santa to bring them a new niche. I really like Christmas traditions, and I really want to find some. And I think the reality is you like build them over time by things you actually like doing. That also begs the question of like, well, isn't that kind of also why this is a problem and like a frustrating product to have infiltrated the mainstream, because it's attempting to take like a commercialized, commodified version of a tradition that like flattens every family's experience and needs and ability to execute upon a tradition in the form of like a boxed elf with a book that's kind of not that good. That makes people feel forced to comply with like a set of rules for said tradition that is going to contain a level of resentment, because again, it's not your tradition, and isn't the point of a tradition for it to be something that either culturally or within your family has been performed year after year because it's something that you like or adds value to you or yours in some way. And if the kids like Elf on the Shelf, maybe the labor is worth it. I think it's going to depend on so many different factors. But yeah, I was thinking if maybe I'd start something called Narwhal in the Hall. And because it doesn't really have limbs, I won't feel like it has to zip line across my kitchen on like dental floss. And it doesn't do anything other than make you perform a random Christmas activity just for kicks, like write a Christmas card to somebody you love or do a funny dance. But I shouldn't be revealing so much of my intellectual property here. So yeah, from the top, I want to acknowledge, if this is a topic that triggers you, don't listen. I do have a lot of hot takes about Christmas. It's the 10-year anniversary of Tamara Judge saying, that's my opinion. And I take that holiday seriously, just like I do that of Kris Kringle's. So just remember, these are my opinions, and I think you're doing great. And no one knows more than old childless millennial over here how annoying people find it when you express an opinion toward how other people do things for a life phase you are not yet in. But I always try to challenge that like dismissal of like opening up the conversation to people from different vantage points, because I think it helps us like set ourselves up for success for like what's not working with the unfair elements of motherhood and invisible labor and the parts of this that can feel like so unmanageable and overwhelming. I learned so much from you telling me about your motherhood experiences. And while this is like so much more like minor and like seasonally specific, it's kind of bigger than Elf on the Shelf though. It's almost like Childless Millennial in that like I'm admitting I'm at a very specific vantage point, and I cannot possibly understand the context and the nuance of what this ritual looks like over years and years with multiple kids, with school-age children who are comparing things with their classmates who, like there's just so much that goes into this that I am not a part of yet. Kind of like the peach smoothie where I was like, why is this like postpartum woman like exasperated, thrilled, shedding a tear with joy to go get a peach smoothie at a Chick-fil-A? And I didn't get it. Now I get it. I'm sure years from now I'll be saying I get it. When I expressed that I wanted to try it, when everyone was like, no, I actually would. My pushback would be, if you're at all interested, I actually think when they're too young to like really retain the memory, because I've started it, and let me tell you, the interest is low. In a good way, though, because I'm experimenting to figure out what my actual like bandwidth is for this in a busy time of year. And it's December 3rd. I've forgotten twice, you guys. I'm doing an episode about Elf on the Shelf. This is so top of mind. It's taking up my time, like researching it and compiling emails and like thinking through it. And yet I lay my head down and it's the last thing on my mind. Like, so if you're not focused on it, how the hell is one to, I'm way too type B for this. And I'm like, thank God I'm doing this exercise now while it's chill and I can decide how to make it workable. So I actually offer up that if you at all want to like incorporate this tradition, have your kid be a part of like the shared cultural thing, but do it your way, like maybe now is the time. But so far, not a ton of interest. I personally think it's the haircut because mine's a girl, which I do like. Because, feminism, in my head, I've been calling her Holly. I like Christmas-related names. And also, I think the stat is 90% of the protagonists in Hallmark movies are also named Holly, if not Noelle. Yeah, our elf Holly wasn't a function of choice. She was the only one in stock. Not gonna lie, her look isn't my favorite. She has earrings and a very boyish pixie cut. And listen, I'm not here to judge, but she's here to judge, so I'm going to judge right back. And I know she tells on, the local children to Santa when they misbehave, but who's going to tell her that a pixie cut is simply not working on her facial structure? I've put it in my, drink refrigerator because that's where my son likes to hide cars, his hippopotamus, among other things. And I was like, God, these legs be floppy. I do think a patella is important for a fella who, his entire vibe is to be anchored and sitting in a place. Also, I gather kids aren't supposed to touch the elf, which is interesting because he grabbed it out of the fridge and swung it around like a helicopter. It didn't tell him not to touch it. And then I was like, oh shit. And I read the book. Also, I don't like the book at all. That's not going to be part of my lore. It's not even good. I don't know. I feel like if the book was written by, I don't know, Taylor Swift's merch team, it's how can you have such a star product, but such weak surrounding merchandising efforts. Though I do think her Abercrombie and Fitch campaigns now were quite funny with the holiday drop of it all. It's actually gotten better, I think, and I did order the cleaning crew Christmas ornament because I do want to introduce my children to my culture. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. It's on the one end, you have people who are we love it. The kids wake up every morning so excited to see where it is. It's magic. It doesn't have to be a big production. Ours just moves to a new spot. Sometimes it leaves a note. If it's not there, we say, oh, bad weather, stuck in traffic or something. But then I had people responding in all caps, absolutely not. Do not start. Once you start, you are doomed for life. It's a trap. I got it's a trap in all caps 6 to 8 times. And then the most frequent response was about the surveillance element, not in a jokey way, but in this conditions children to accept being constantly monitored and reported on way. One person wrote, ew, soft intro to constantly being surveilled. Kids deserve privacy, especially in their homes. Another person said the elf is early desensitization to the surveillance state. Can I ask you a question? Do you guys have nanits? I am not dismissing these concerns, but I genuinely want to understand them and want to dig into this because the surveillance element that people are objecting to, the elf watching your behavior and reporting back to an authority figure, isn't new. It's Santa's entire brand. I mean, it's easy when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake and knows if you've been bad or good. It's not subtext. It's the actual text of Santa's core mythology. I feel his entire folklore is a behavior-based naughty or nice list, right? And then if we're going there, it's well, what about the big guy, Sky Daddy, God himself? The concept of an omnipresent, omniscient being who's always watching and keeping score of your behavior, it's foundational to multiple major world religions. So why this elf specifically? Is there something about the elf's brand of surveillance that crosses a line that Santa and God don't? Is that Clay Aiken doesn't in his hit song Invisible when he watches you in your room? Is it because the elf's in your house? Is it because it's daily? Is it because, unlike Santa, who like shows up once a year, the elf is like very visibly present? And I don't know, like the current theory I'm kind of sitting with is the elf kind of the most concrete, visible symbol of something we've been uncomfortable with all along, but like haven't had the language for. Millennials are the first generation as a whole to like be really figuring out how to parent in the surveillance age. I think that this generation might be having such intense feelings about Elf on the Shelf because we're trying to figure out what childhood looks like for our kids because it is so vastly different from ours. And maybe it doesn't sit well with us because back in the day when you would say like he's watching you, it's because like nobody else was, and maybe that would help keep you safe and help make you behave when, you know, your parents didn't have eyes on you when you were out in the world. And yeah, maybe back in the day the Santa thing of like watching you was more of a function of like the independence kids had and to get them to behave and to be safe because no one was watching them. And maybe it's not sitting well now because everything is watching them. But yeah, people who talked about the surveillance state and had like Bible verses in their profiles, it's not that I'm judging you, but I am genuinely interested in how you distinguish God's surveillance from the elves. Because I know God is like, you know, more powerful. He like keeps it 100 on the land, the sea, the sky. He created all of it. Holly can't even like serve face with this pixie cut. I don't think she could create an entire, you know, earth as we know it. Like I understand God's more important to people than this elf is. But I just am interested in how people like distinguish types of surveillance behaviors among omnipotent type forces. It's always a journey. This is Kate from the Beyond going back into the episode and like placing ads in certain increments. And then I'll like catch a snippet of something I said and forgot about. And I'm like, did I just say God keeps it 100 on the land, the sea, the sky? Anyway, this is an Uncommon podcast, and this is why Uncommon Goods is the perfect sponsor for us. Holidays are almost here, and if you still have names on your list, do not panic. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful with thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else. And they're like meaningful and feel customized. It's the types of gifts you give that you're not only so excited and can't wait for them to open, but also the ones people open and they're like, oh, that's so me. You know, you see something, you're like, that's so my mom, that's so my sister, whatever. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, often handmade or made in the U.S., crafted by independent artists, small businesses, which I love, but also means things run out quickly, so you kind of have to shop ASAP, not to put the pressure on. But they have something for everyone. You can shop by like any types of person, whether like for her, for him, but also drill down. Moms, dads, kids, age of kids, teenagers, you know what I mean? Like from like hobby-based stuff like book lovers and sports fans and foodies to like things that are good for corporate gifts and clients. Mixologists, gardeners, you name it. There's unforgettable gifts that are anything but ordinary. There's this plate that looks like a car that I'm so excited to give my son. He's going to lose his mind. But yeah, it's called an Eco Car non-slip plate. He's going to be so excited. It's pretty cute. I don't know if in the past my pitch for the pistachio pedestal as a perfect dude gift has landed, but trust me when I say it's a bestseller for a reason. You gotta find a place to put those shells in a gorgeous pistachio pedestal. But also, and Caroline Moss of G Thanks Just Bought It, who like this is her job, she says that's like a top selling thing every year. I always find such fun stuff, like whether it's ballpark related stuff for my sister because she loves baseball, or Michigan stuff for my husband. There's great stuff for like specific cities and schools and sports allegiances. I really love this. Like I love a whimsy gift, like a build your own book nook or build your own mini library. There's also this toy vacuum I'm interested in. It's like literally a vacuum that like I think your kid can take around and like vacuum up its toys. And then it's like a bucket of toys. I'm intrigued. Oh, there's a gardener's harvest basket, like Meghan Markle picking out lettuces in her back lawn. Do you think I'll ever be a person that has a harvest basket? Gal can dream. But Uncommon Goods can make that dream come true. There's so many fun, hyper-specific things. Just give it a gander and you will find something for everyone on your list. So don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/BeThereIn5. That's uncommongoods.com/BeThereIn5 for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. This episode is also brought to you by Revolve. That's right. I'm a Revolve gal. Revolve has been a go-to style destination, like for me for years. It's got such a great curation of brands that are like modern and up to date and help me like feel cool when I'm questioning my sense of style. Speaking of the mental load, I need somebody to tell me what to wear sometimes. And I feel like Revolve's curated lists are so good for like special occasions, whether it's like a date night, a wedding, a concert, a holiday party, whatever. I love so many of their brands from, as I've told you, I love the sets from Amanda Uprichard, Norma Kamali. You know what I haven't bought in years is a pair of Citizens of Humanity jeans. But I heard somebody on TikTok say that they work in some store and tall girls always love the Citizens of Humanity Anina trousers as just like a perfect straight leg denim. And yeah, 5 stars, medium rise, decent inseam, not too wide, not too skinny. I also bought another commando bodysuit in more of like a Merlot color because, I feel the most myself when I'm dressed like I'm about to give a keynote in the 90s. There's 1,200 brands, 100,000 styles, high-end to emerging and exclusive labels. And yeah, the brands I mentioned, also another denim brand I love, A Goldie. Another brand that I feel like everyone is obsessed with. I think it's Liline, but I think in French, if we were to en bon it would be La Ligne. They have the cutest trousers. I want to rock a monochrome, different textured fabric, like oxblood look. I think it's called the Satin Colby pant. Ugh, I'm in love. There's new arrivals daily, inclusive sizing options with options from extra small to 4X, and amazing customer service with fast and free shipping and returns. Whether it's a weekend away, a big night out, or just a little style refresh, your dream wardrobe is just one click away. Head to revolve.com/BeThereIn5, shop my edit, and take 15% off your first order with code BeThereIn5. Fast 2-day shipping, easy returns. It's literally the only place you need to shop from. That's revolve.com/BeThereIn5 to shop my favorites and get 15% off your first order with BeThereIn5. Offer ends December 21st. So happy shopping. Guys, I think what I'm trying to understand is why the extreme, like the people that reject it entirely, that are like, no, it's a trap, absolutely not, no fucking way, had like a really specific reason. But my question is, like, on those grounds, do you have to reject it entirely? Not because I think you should be doing, but because I'm saying as a person who's interested, can't I just make up the rules? But like, why can't you tell your kid, in our family, the elf doesn't report behavior. He's just here to spread Christmas cheer. In our family, the elf only moves on Saturdays. In our family, we don't do the elf at all because you are great kids who don't need somebody watching. You know what I mean? There's so much blind belief that goes into this whole thing. So if you say your elf has different rules than other families, like, would they really be like, that doesn't track? Because what doesn't track is Santa visiting 520 million children across multiple time zones in a single night, led by a flying reindeer, one of whom has a biological headlight. Like there's a lot about this that is logically tough. But that doesn't seem to bother a child. And if your kid comes home and is like, well, Cruz's parents or Paisley Grace's parents, their elf brings presents, or their elf has really weird toilet humor. Can you not say, cool, yeah, every family does it differently, and this is how ours does it? And that's the conversation. And again, I know you guys are screaming at me. I don't even know what we're going to uncover here. But part of my goal isn't just to be annoyed by elf on the shelf. I'm actually coming at this as a person who thinks I would have loved it when I was a kid, and who's like interested in it because I love doing things that, like, who doesn't want to see their kid's face light up? I know that, like, I'm not in the crazy hectic holiday shuffle of things with a school-aged kid. If anything, I'm more in the phase of motherhood where I'm still trying to build my family. I'm dealing with so much uncertainty of not knowing what my future family will look like, and had a period of grief this year after losing a baby at 11 weeks. And around now is when I'd have, my due date was, and I'd have a newborn. And like, I've just been thinking a lot about like, I don't know. Sometimes it helps me to center back to like, not to feel bad for myself because everyone's always going through a lot, but to recognize that like such a part of this that makes it so hard as women is like so much of this is out of our control. And we go through so much, and like to figure out the areas that are optional, where we can do less, where we can outsource more, and like go easier on ourselves. Because I hated hearing from you guys what a source of like dread the holidays have become for you. And because I'm not there yet, I'm interested to talk about it, not to tell you how to live your life, but to like, I don't know, put more visibility to this topic, because it almost seems like so many of you are pouring your energy into the way you do things for the holidays for your kids. And things are so crazy with school and activities, and like, the gifts and the teachers' gifts and the gifts for the rest of the family, and the maintenance of the magic, and making sure that you hide the gifts and that where the packages are delivered. And then you like don't even sleep on Christmas Eve, like wrapping and assembling and putting in battery. I know this season is like the most, and some of that is just, it is what it is, right? So much about parenting isn't fun and is work, and that's just reality. And I think people that pretend it's not work are annoying. It's kind of like how a vacation becomes a trip. Like it's harder to travel with kids. It's just not as relaxing. Doesn't mean it's not fun. Sometimes there's not joy within it. It's just different. Holidays are similar, right? And also, like, don't studies show that most kids' memories are from holidays and vacations, which is kind of funny. Those are the memories are created by doing something out of the ordinary that parents have to like carve out a lot of like extra effort and energy to do. but it ends up being like super value added for the kids. And that's why you do it and it's worth it and it's joyful and whatever. But I do think there is a point of excess where we, like it's the whole lighting yourself on fire to keep others warm of it all, to use a cozy fire related metaphor. But like, where do we draw the line? And a lot of some of the emails and DMs I was getting were starting to resemble the vibe I felt in the Bridesmaids episodes I did back in the day, where I really understand what people are saying and I really empathize with it. How overwhelming it can be, how much money it is, how it's kind of the social contract and expectation. You want to show up for your friends the way they showed up for you, or, like you want to go to fun things, you want to celebrate people, but you don't have the money. You don't want to buy the hideous dress. You hate the maid of honor and her, aggressive emails or whatever. Like, it was people having the same grievances over and over and over, yet they kept going back. And I was just kind of sitting there like, is it okay to say, why are we doing things we hate? And we've turned so many optional things into, and we talk about them like they're obligations that feel mandatory, and then we resent them, and then we resent the people around us for participating in them. But we're kind of like the ones setting up the system. And like, nowhere is this more true than Elf on the Shelf, I think. And I'm not saying this as a holier than thou person, but as an outsider who is trying to like set up things in a way that's like manageable and to like learn from you guys. And I know Santa equity is a thing, and maybe it's different now with the performance of social media and the visibility of what everyone's getting and doing. I don't know. I want to be empathetic, but I also want to push back where I think we don't have to drive ourselves insane, right? And Elf on the Shelf is just, it's a head scratcher to me, because as a person that actually likes whimsy labor, I'm interested. But the idea of doing this every single night, every year for years, especially if you've committed to elaborate setups and you have to one-up yourself, I can see how it starts as fun, but it's a slippery slope. Year over year, like having to come up with different scenarios. I like doing creative, fun things when I have the time and headspace for it, but I'm not going to do it if I don't. And I'm grateful to you guys who had to pave the path and maybe didn't think, like, I think when this first started, you maybe don't realize that like how you start is how you finish. And I think that's the knowledge we can all share here on this program, is learn from those who came before us. Maybe ask how we can go easier on ourselves during this time, because of the reason we're probably putting so much effort and enthusiasm and energy into our kids' Christmas is because we loved it once, And like, how do we take back like an ounce of that joy by like just doing a little less? Is that so naive to say? I don't know, gang. If you want to text 775 Hey Beth, I don't know, maybe I don't know if I'll follow up or we could do a Patreon or something. Like, I think what might be a better use of time is hearing from people, what are their quote unquote traditions that specifically have eliminated some element of like labor or excessive prep or energy or time in the holiday seasons that you like established as your tradition, and the way you frame it kind of matters. Like, I think something huge that would take so much time and drive me insane, because I don't like to wrap gifts, is doing all the wrapping. It must drive you insane to have to like figure out where to hide these gifts, and for the kids to be like asleep and away enough so you can take them out, and then you have to wrap them all in one night and like wrap. I just think wrapping's annoying. Assembling, putting batteries in, all of that. Like, growing up, something that my friends didn't do, but we did, but I never asked questions. I just like, I don't know, thought it was how Santa did things for our house because that's how we liked it. My parents didn't wrap the gifts. We would stand at the top of the stairs, they'd ring a bell. It was so fun. We'd race down the stairs, almost like slide tackle each other. And we'd have different sections, and everything we got was just there. And I just never thought twice about it. And that eliminated a lot of work for my parents, who like, I know did the most, but I also do feel like they at least slept a little on Christmas Eve. Like, I don't want you guys having to pull an unnecessary all-nighter, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm being naive. So yeah, I'm interested in the ways you have modified your traditions to be a little bit easier. And like I said earlier, I think it's the youngest child in me. I really don't feel that beholden to like arbitrary rules and standards. I'm already not really a martyr because I'm a youngest child, and I don't do things I don't like doing. And I don't know, I don't feel really that bad about it. I don't do Christmas cards. It's just too much. I'm not a big gift wrapper. I do bags. Like, that's not some part of it that brings me joy. And I think holiday cards sound like they take up so much time. I don't do them at all, but like every couple of years. Or I love to get like a New Year's or Valentine's card because it stands out from the rest. Send it a little late. It's charming. I want to just like be able to do it my way. And not only because I'm so inspired by Whitney and Mark's dance to My Way, but also because there's been so many parts of this that are so out of my control, that are so physical, that are so medical, that are so heartbreaking. And if I continue down this path of trying to figure out like how to build my family, like there are going to be times I'm down for the count. I'm not well. I'm not present. I can't do the most. And I just want to set myself up for to be in a place where whatever traditions I establish, it's like manageable is all. And it's something that I think adds value to my family and isn't too draining on us as parents. I don't know, you guys. I'm interested to hear how you have gone out of your way to actively decide to do less, and how we can inspire one another and the moms of tomorrow to do what we do best here at the Be There in 5 podcast, which is live our lives in a way that is always trying to reverse Rachel Hollis, who told us we were made for more, when I actually think we're literally made to do less. And we're asking ourselves or being asked to do way too much. This episode is also brought to you by Aura Frames. Now, I don't know if anybody else, their messages are like absolutely clogged with videos and photos they send of their children to loved ones near and far. Mine certainly is, and this is why I love Aura Frames, because it's a perfect gift for somebody, but also like year round, you can send in photos, live photos that will play as videos, which is so fun. Videos up to 30 seconds. You can send them to your loved one's Aura frame and they'll just like pop up and they can enjoy your photos year round without like clogging your storage, for one. But also, I think this is just like an ideal gift, especially like if you have kids and you don't live near family. This is such a lifeline of a gift for grandparents. It doesn't take a lot of tech savviness. It can be set up 2 minutes with the Aura Frame app. Or like a bestie from afar, like you want to like celebrate your friendship or your adventures together. You can preload photos on this digital picture frame like before you send it. And then when it arrives, they'll have all these pictures and you can upload on an ongoing basis to surprise them in their frame. If you're a last minute shopper like me and Christmas is and Be There in 5 days, you know the feeling. Shelves are empty, ideas are running low. And Aura Frames it's such a great gift that feels personal. You can upload unlimited photos and videos, keep adding from anywhere, anytime. And every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box with no price tag. I gave one to my in-laws last year and it was like playing throughout Thanksgiving weekend. And I kept watching it and it was kind of like a nice reminiscing, going through my son's photos and all of his cousins and my in-laws. And I don't know, I just love that it was like parked in a prime spot in their house and we could enjoy it throughout the weekend. And it's a great gift that literally keeps on giving. And I also love to surprise my parents, with a rogue photo of Tugboat now and again. You just never know what you're going to get when you have an Aura frame and you give people like me access to it. It's a great product, a perfect last minute gift. Ideal for anybody who you want to share stuff about your kids, your family, your dog, your life. Get it for a group of besties so you all can have like an ongoing pool of photos. It's too much fun. But anyway, for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames. Named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code BeThereIn5 at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code BeThereIn5. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is brought to you by Chef IQ. I was telling you about this the other week. You know how every family's got that one holiday cooking disaster story, or like that one person trying to time every dish so it's not only cooked optimally but served at the prime temperature? I think Chef IQ is such a cool product. I gave one to my dad, who is the resident cooker of the Christmas meal, where we've got twice baked potatoes going, prime rib, another side dish, or maybe something on the grill. There's a lot of things being cooked at once that require vastly different temperatures, and he has so many timers going off that I never know if it's Carol of the Bells or my dad's alarms for cooking different meats and sides. But I gave him a 4-thermometer Chef IQ, and on your app, it tells you the real-time temperature of whatever it is you're cooking with a really thin probe that doesn't create a hole in your food or anything, but just tells you the exact temperature it is. And it tells you when to flip, when to take it off the heat, how long to let it rest. It's like having a personal chef right in your kitchen. I don't feel like this is an over-genderized product, but like I do think dudes are hard to shop for. And if you have like, men's gift guides are like, for the grill master. And if that's a thing, I mean, this is really the ultimate gift for the grill master that I don't see nearly enough, because this is going to help them cook whatever it is absolutely perfectly every time. And my parents have been loving it. I think you guys will love it if you host, if you cook. And the best part is even if you don't cook, because while people that do will love how this makes it efficient and perfect, people that don't know how to cook like me, like it's helpful to me from a food safety standpoint, if I'm honest, because I get so nervous serving meat, serving fish, serving chicken to people. I want to know it's first and foremost fully cooked, much less taste and texture, like the next levels of things I have to worry about. It's a gift everyone will love for seasoned cooks, kitchen rookies, and everyone in between. And I love it. I think you will too. And with my promo code BeThereIn5, you can save 30% and get all your shopping done. Go to chefiq.com, promo code BeThereIn5, chefiq.com. But yeah, let's get into some stories and some background. Let's start with the basics. Where did this thing even come from? Elf on the Shelf is a 2005 children's book written by Carol Abersold and her daughter Shonda Bell, based on a Christmas tradition that started in their family in 1974. They had an elf named Fizby. Describes the role of an elf who is assigned by Santa Claus to monitor children's behavior. Carol and Shonda self-published the book. They maxed out credit cards to get 5,000 copies made. Shonda's twin sister Krista quit her job at QVC to help with marketing. The book comes with the elf. You can't just buy the elf alone. This is important because it's marketed as a tradition you're buying into, not just a toy. The story goes the elf is sent by Santa to watch over children, and each night after kids go to bed, the elf flies back to the North Pole to report on their behavior, whether they've been naughty or nice, and then returns to a different spot in the house by morning. The rules are very specific. You cannot touch the elf or it loses its Christmas magic. I'm not sure I understand that. Again, I think it's because it's so poorly made. They did book signings. They hustled. Sounds like Jennifer Garner was photographed carrying the book. And then they got booked on the Today Show, and then the whole thing just went next level. And I also think, too, like, this started in 2005. By 2011, it was making $16 million in revenue. As of 2023, the company generated an estimated $100 million annually. And over 17 million elves have been adopted worldwide. The founders are estimated to have personal fortunes of around $50 million each. I mean, unreal. It's funny because former entrepreneurial girl boss era, I used to be like impressed and salivating at how much people made off their entrepreneurial ventures. But now it makes me feel a little funny. When people just have so much money. I do think that like the late 2000s and early 2010s, not only is this the rise of like the mommy blogger and the performance of parenthood, it's also the beginning stages of Pinterest, of Instagram, of a curated version of your life. And thinking about how this impacted the way people portray parenting is really interesting, given that the elf is like, so ripe for crafting. And I'm sure that contributed to its explosion. They've expanded to an entire universe, cloth couture collection of elf clothing, elf pets, animated Netflix specials, a Broadway musical, Roblox game. They've created the Santaverse. Now it's a multi-million-dollar empire with accessories, pets, clothes, and a Netflix special. I think what's so interesting about this product, again, is like it's not an old tradition. It's a 20-year-old like marketing product, a consumer good that positioned itself as tradition. But it's a very high maintenance tradition on the parents' behalf. But here's something wild. Okay, to get into a listener story. Elf on the Shelf scoop, 3 siren emojis. There was a humble elf company that started in Ohio in 1984. They sold an elf whose lore laid the foundation for the godforsaken Elf on the Shelf empire we know today. The original elf was named Christopher Poppinkins. I am familiar with him because my grandpa bought Christophers for my mom and her 6 siblings to use in their own houses when me and my cousins were growing up in the late 80s, early 90s. Christopher was a staple of my childhood Christmas traditions. My mom saved him, and now Christopher is the elf in my household with my kids. Anyway, Christopher Poppinkins won a Choice Toy Award in 2004. Oh, yes, the CTAs. 1 year before Elf on the Shelf TM was introduced. So EOTS TM, Elf on the Shelf, was obviously outscaled, out-trademark protected, out-marketed Christopher Poppinkins by a mile. I worked on a brand that partnered with Elf on the Shelf several years ago, and the trademark requirements for talking about Elf on the Shelf are insane, which just validates IMO that they know it's a stolen idea, but they better marketed, scaled, and legally protected it, allegedly. Okay, so then I dug into Christopher Poppinkins. That's what it does. A bit of a marble mouth name, not going to lie, but very sweet story. In the early 60s, a woman named Flora Johnson in Ohio created an elf tradition for her own children. Every Christmas, this elf would visit her kids. It would hide around the house, and the kids would look for it every day. In November 1983, she got a phone call from her very excited grandson that the elf had popped into his home, and she realized she had to share this tradition with the world. And she's 59 years old at this point in 1984. She starts writing a story about a little elf who dreams of visiting children during the holidays, and she names him Christopher after her grandfather, and Poppinkins because he pops in and out. And the story's lovely, and I like it much better than Elf on the Shelf. Christopher's an elf who works at the North Pole making toys, but he's sad because he never gets to meet children he makes toys for. He tells Santa his special wish. He wants to visit the children, and Santa grants his request. So Christopher gets to pop in and visit kids from late November to Christmas Eve, playing hide and seek with them. On Christmas Eve, he returns to the North Pole with a report about his visit. And I do think that's where you also can't touch Christopher. And also, I do think he reports back on behavior, but I don't gather that Christopher Poppins is as behaviorally based. But like the two products have like the same mechanisms, really. One has a sweeter backstory. One was preceded the other by 20 years. And Flora Johnson, again, started this business when she was 59. She handmade these elves at her kitchen table. From 1985 to 2000, she made 10,000 Christopher Poppins by hand. Each one had 17 pieces: pipe cleaners, yarn, felt, ribbon, cotton, pom-poms. Her husband Al hand published the books to include with each doll. Anyways, she like traveled around the country doing TV appearances, radio shows, interviews. Christopher Poppins is available in specialty stores across the U.S. And yeah, won a lot of different toy awards. I think the concepts are pretty much identical, even if the backstory isn't. An elf sent by Santa visits children during the holidays, moves to different locations at night while kids are sleeping, reports back to Santa, a don't touch the elf rule, like a book plus doll, can't buy one or the other. And yeah, the elf on the shelf people say, like, in their backstory, the tradition started in 1974, even though the product was in 2005. So that's convenient before, like, Christopher Poppins was commercialized in the 80s. So it's possible two families independently created very similar elf traditions, but Christopher Poppins didn't start in 1984 and she commercialized it. She created it for her own children in the early 60s. So technically her family tradition predates Carol's by over a decade, and Flora got there first commercially by 20 years. But, like, so why have we heard of Elf on the Shelf? But I have never heard of Christopher Poppins, and I don't know if you guys have. But, like, I think Elf on the Shelf, launched at the right moment. Christopher Poppins launched, said the name sort of gets, in 1984. That's the age of, like, grassroots marketing. That's, like, the heyday of network marketing. I think he's designed for, like, a slower, smaller, more intimate era. The story is really, really cute. Where they were mostly selling to like card shops, gift shops, and mall kiosks. And parents would go up to these like shopkeepers and like discreetly ask about Poppins. And he'd be like taken from the back and given to them in like a discreet brown paper bag, like they're at a liquor store. And like there was like a lot of emphasis on kids not seeing it in a retail setting, which is interesting because Elf on the Shelf is like so like commercially overexposed. That's actually an interesting question. I don't know how. Oh, isn't there like a rule that they don't have powers till they're adopted? So like they say all the ones out there in the world. Whatever. It's kind of silly. I think this discreet card shop is kind of cute. Anyways, one's a nice family business from 10,000 elves. The other's $100 million empire. Regardless, I'm interested in Christopher Poppins. I might look into this further. I find this juicy. I find this highly suspicious. I cannot prove the timeline of these events and who was aware of what when it came out. But listen, I mean, like, the second I saw Elf on a Shelf's dumb face, like, listen, I as it relates to elf canon, this is one of the least cute elves I've ever seen. But it's also like the RC Cola of elves. It's a Burger King. It's maybe a great value. It has this like generic AI elf look that's like on the nose cartoonish in a way that is soulless. You know what I mean? It's a stand-in for an elf. And it does look mischievous. And wow, like what folklore it would be if the biggest mischief of all that Christopher Poppins pulled was popping into a house and popping off, and his last Christmas heist of all was some light intellectual property theft. I mean, I think it's hard anytime we see a situation where someone's really thriving and we learn time and time again, like snitches don't always get stitches, and that's just tough from like a mankind perspective. But like that narky little dumb elf face, like, I'm sorry. I hope you know I support this concept and I want to do it to be part of the culture. I think it can be cute. But I also think these elves' faces are like, I don't trust this chick as far as I can throw her. And she's been thrown pretty far, like I said, like a helicopter by my son. And I just went upstairs and she, I think she is actively missing. So that's where it came from. But like, why did it take off the way it did? What were we like doing in 2005 that made us collectively decide if we needed this? And I think that like, I mentioned the mid-2000 like Pinterest, Instagram of it all, visual performance of parenting. like one-upmanship, if you will, like signaling you're a good parent. And I think that this is where the contradiction presents itself, where this thing that's supposed to make things easier, like a prepackaged tradition, ended up creating more work and more pressure on parents. And like, I do think a part of this, and granted, the parents who popularized this, like, aren't just millennials, obviously. I think there's a lot to be said about like millennial attachment to Christmas, nostalgic Christmas, and wanting to have related traditions for our own kids. But the initial F on the shelf boom, let's say kids ages 3 to 10 years old were born 95 to 2008. Their parents were probably born like, I don't know. The people that made it initially take off were like Gen X and elder millennials. I was looking into this, and Gen X parents being the initial F on the shelf adopters. The theory there is like, if you know, they're always referred to as like latchkey kids, and much higher divorce rate and multiple households. And, you know, if they're part of its success is one of the conjectures is like maybe people that didn't have elaborate Christmas traditions themselves were creating traditions they wish they had, and they like hit a real sweet spot of people that wanted, like I said, this kind of bed in a bag tradition. I thought that about Gen X was an interesting thought, because that being less of a function of nostalgia and more like trying to create magic they didn't necessarily have themselves is actually a different thing than what I think millennials are, which is like peak nostalgic for things like fall, things like Christmas magic, for like, seasonal vibes. Because I think not only did we have, the last truly magical analog childhoods, it's almost like the parenting in such an anxious, unstable time and a desperation to recreate what makes you feel safe. And like, there's so much about my life as a parent that will make my kid have like a different childhood than I did. And like when I was a kid, I just feel like my parents were so established, and we lived in the same house like most of my life and had the same neighbors. And I walked to my elementary school, and we had our Christmas traditions and where we put the decorations, and we had our whole, like, we just, I don't know. And yeah, just interesting to think about. I'm not only an older parent, also a working parent who's self-employed, who with each passing word and episode, I don't know if I'm going to seal my fate and never work again. We live in a city that we love and have planted roots in, but like never really intended to stay that long. We're both transplants here, don't have family here. Like between interest rates and property taxes and not knowing where to go permanently, we've just rented our house, which we really love. And we invest our money elsewhere. And meanwhile, enjoy that like the pipes aren't our problem. So like, I don't really like assign that much value to like being a homeowner or not. But I do think it means something in terms of like stability. Having a house and neighbors and a set like school pipeline. And I don't know. I don't really know what our future holds, and I don't know what his life is going to look like. It's like, I'm still trying to make it. And I want him to have like a beautiful, stable childhood I did, but I don't even know like what we'll be doing next year, where he'll be. And I think that there's a part of me that like feels very intent on like starting things now that will feel familiar to him no matter where we go. Because those things really mattered to me as a kid. And I know I'm always saying like millennials are the last to have an analog childhood and we straddle two worlds and blah, blah, blah. But I just think it applies to so many things. And I think we're the most obsessed with Christmas magic because I think we remember when it genuinely felt magical. And I don't know if you have a phone or an iPad or whatever, like pretty young, like are people finding out a lot younger, finding out about Santa or the elf a lot younger? Are they looking it up? Like, I don't know. I feel like I was probably in 5th grade or something, which is that kind of older? Is that normal? To me, it's kind of a rite of passage to like slowly put together the logistics, maybe hear a few things and kind of figure it out for yourself in a way that's a bit of a slow burn. I understand that many people have had a jarring experience learning about Santa, but mine was like a number of things that started with me finding a box of a dollhouse in this like crawl space off of my playroom. And when I asked my mom why it was there, she said she'd tell me on my wedding day, which is hilarious. I never forgot it, though. I was like, God, that feels far away. And I think I brought it up to her on my wedding day. But Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I pieced it together over time. I'm probably so annoying speaking in millennial generalities, but I obviously did a lot of research on our generation for my book. And like we're also the first generation to leave organized religion in huge numbers. So like we don't even necessarily, a lot of us don't even have the reason for the season anymore. We're like attached to the aesthetics that we knew. And when you don't have like necessarily the same religious or spiritual traditions, like I'll probably still go to church on Christmas and stuff. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Like a lot of my Advent calendar is a nativity, and I've explained to Teddy who the people are, because like I want him to know the story, and like I found comfort in a higher power as a child, uh, until I learned the version that I needed to like repent for my sins. And then I almost became obsessive about praying for and apologizing for everything I ever did. But yeah, I don't know. I got to figure that out. But I think that with Christmas magic, kind of feels like a bit of a spiritual void, you know? It's ritual, it's wonder, it's something bigger than ourselves. Like I think a lot of millennial behavior has to do with a desire to make meaning. And like we want that for our kids to believe in something. Maybe the elf fills that void. I don't know. I trust me, I know falseidol.com/ this is a problem. I don't want children worshiping the elf like he's a religious idol of sorts. That's like probably a very I don't know, that's a stretch. And yeah, it's weird trying to parent and be a leader in a world that sometimes feels scary and out of control. And the only thing you feel like you can do to provide a quote unquote good childhood is to remember what was good about your childhood and try to replicate that as much as you can. And like Christmas magic is something I know how to manufacture, and I feel confident I can give my kid, and amongst many things I can't control and I do not know if I can give him. So it's like that this is all kind of maybe an emotional stretch that for the sake of analysis, but all that yearning and anxiety like funneled into a $30 toy that's half ragdoll, half boy. You know, I kind of get why people have emotional breakdowns about moving it daily. I think like at the most basic level, this started from a place of like, what parent doesn't love to see their kids light up? What parent doesn't want to do something fun and special and sweet and new that's like popular? Of course, I think it all started from a good place. And also I think like, yeah, there's different reasons why the people with purchasing power at the time of its continued popularity are so invested, and it has to do with environmental factors would put it like, social media and performative parenting, but also a desire for creating a sort of magic that mimics safety and control, and that kind of spoon feeds what you would consider the good parts of your childhood, maybe, or things that make you feel like, or the type of memories you want your kids to have. And it's like, especially with such access to technology, you just like don't even know if that's possible for them to not like know everything ever at such a young age. So why not give them something to believe in while they can? So yeah, that's kind of the origin of it, and why people started doing it. But like now to get to like the intense feelings about it and the big tensions the elf creates. I think the biggest thing is the labor and mental load. So it's one more thing on a December to-do list. It's every night till Christmas. It's December 1st. Some people said Thanksgiving to Christmas, but I think it's December 1st. And it's like the fact that you can't forget and you can't skip, and there's pressure is one thing, but like pressure to make it elaborate's a whole other thing. And one listener wrote in, the holidays are peak mental load time for moms, the makers of magic. I was surprised at how much parenthood made me dislike the holidays. I thought it would be so the opposite. We started the elf with my stepson before it got too out of hand, but it still got overwhelming. He started to remember what we had done previous years, so we had to come up with something unique every day. One year we couldn't find where to put him, so we had to go buy a new one November 30th. And then he recognized that it looked different, and it had a photo from a previous year he had taken comparing the two. Oh my God. But in general, I found it frustrating how much effort goes in and is unappreciated. I mean, Santa is a racket. That's our big struggle, is how much to lean into Santa. When the 18-year-old was little, we had to do unique wrapping paper for Santa and print labels, not handwritten, and hide gifts and lie about the whole thing. And then Santa gets all the credit. One year he asked for a big gift for his dad from Santa, which of course I had to by and then hide, and he was singing Santa's praises. It doesn't really teach them how much work goes into it or how to appreciate gifts because it's all just magic. And then there's messaging about how if you're good, you get presents. So does that mean that kids who get less aren't as good? I want to love and savor it all, but it ends up feeling like just another example of motherhood being a lot of effort and little reward. Thank you for writing in. There's a lot to chew on there. And this has come up in several places, this concept of getting credit, which I think is interesting. Because so much of parenting is thankless, right? I mean, I don't think even to this day I really can I've internalized and processed. Sometimes I sit here and think oh my God, my parents feel about me the way I feel about Teddy. You just almost don't think of yourself as somebody's kid and what you're like through their eyes, especially not as an adult. It's really interesting and all very valid. And I think that what you just described is what I was saying earlier, a really helpful example of something that's fun to start. You have to think about sustaining it. And then the way that kind of labor, you really grow to feel frustrated by and to resent. And the forensics of him figuring out it wasn't the same elf. It's almost like a weird thing where he's inching toward figuring out what he probably already knows. But do you keep up the ruse? Do you let him piece it together? That's also complicated with how that's sorted out, how you talk about it. I appreciate your input because I think it's helpful to share examples of this stuff, because I think the issue with the invisibility of it is how it kind of creeps up sometimes and you don't even consciously know you're always taking it on. And I know when I entered parenthood, for example, I talked to so many women about the mental load and the, I don't know, kind of imbalance they felt and this instinct to always be I'll just do it. And so many people told me to kind of fight that instinct and to just trust your partner to find their own way and style of parenting, to not always intervene and think you know best, or not to be the only one that knows the gadgets and whatever. And that was life-altering advice that really enhanced both of our experiences as partners, as parents. And yeah, I just am musing aloud in case this can help the magic makers of tomorrow feel their Christmas Eves a little less laborious. Anyway, thank you for sharing. This person says, I am firmly team no elf, truly the worst decision we ever made. And I feel like you and I are cut from the same cloth. I begged my husband to ditch it while the kids were still young enough to forget it, but he promised he'd take full responsibility if we kept it. And then he spent 3 weeks before Christmas out of town for work last year, and I could have absolutely unalived him. He left me daily props and instructions, but I was still the one having to execute the elf's nightly shenanigans. Bless your heart. Thank you for sharing. Sorry, I'm moving so slow. So there's a few ones like that are just no. And it mostly has to do with starting something you ultimately didn't want to finish because it was just too much. And it's every time you level up yourself to create a surprise, then that becomes your new baseline. And that's what one of you guys said. My biggest piece of advice on it now as a seasoned parent is just to set the bar low for yourself, especially if your kids are little. You do not have to do anything crazy. The elf does not have to destroy the kitchen. Yeah, I don't understand why it's mischievous, because those aren't narky vibes. Somebody tattling on you to Santa isn't also creating ski slips out of flour on your kitchen floor. I feel like they'd be pretty tidy. The elf does not have to destroy the kitchen, nor does she have to bring elaborate gifts for kids in order for the kids to have a fun time with it. My husband and I will typically just move him around before bed, and our kids have a blast every morning waking up to see where he moved. I feel like the people who regret it most are perhaps the ones who overdo it the first year, then set themselves up for maintaining the same level of detail. This one says, I'm a single woman with no kids, and I have an elf on the shelf story. I was hired to dog sit and was just minding my business when I get a text. I'm so sorry to do this, but insert kid's name is asking about the elf. Can you change its position and send us photos? The mom had a whole kit of accessories and activities that it could do, so I did a whole little photo shoot with the elf. Sent daily photos to the parents to share with their kid. They even added money to my fee for the extra service. Haha. So I would say it's much easier to do it all in one go rather than having to remember night after night to change it. And looking ahead to when I have kids, I'm going to say no elf. Or I liked what one person said, where they have it sit by a small mailbox and the elf sends letters to the kids about fun activities to do for the holidays, but definitely no spy for Santa. Oh, that's cute. It's interesting. There was 2 or 3 emails where people say it's strictly their husband's thing, that something they have fun with, and it's their labor. But like the email earlier, if they go out of town for 3 weeks. This one is from, this one says, I'm a licensed school psychologist and parent coach, and I'd love to deep dive parenting mind fields with you. I have a particular interest in the elf because it's the antithesis of my behavioral philosophy. However, I'm a parent with kids who live in the world, so I try to take these things with thoughtful consideration. I'd originally said I would never have one in my house. My daughter had multiple teachers who had them in the classroom, so the kids would talk about them. In third grade, she told me she wrote a special note to the class elf that said her only wish for Christmas was to have her own elf. I'm not a monster and went to Target that afternoon. Ever since, my husband and I half-ass the whole charade and often forget to even get it out on the appropriate date. We go all out with holiday fun, but the elf is an afterthought, but my kids still love it. We don't mention the surveillance aspect except occasionally when joking about it. You can do things with dumb intentions if you don't take it too seriously, which really is my whole approach to parenting. Make the best decision you can in each moment with love while trying to preserve your own sanity. But there's never one right answer for every parent or family. That's what makes it so damn hard. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Hi, Kate and Courtney. I'm writing from the middle of the Elf on a Shelf lane. For background, we have 3 kids ages 8 to 3 and 2 full-time working parents. When my kids were babies, I was strongly anti-elf, but one year my BFF and I decided why not give it a try. Our families are close, so we figured we both try. Our elf comes the weekend after Thanksgiving and sometimes brings Xmas jammies. This year I forgot and they got Xmas jammies early. Oh well, maybe they'll get another pair, maybe not. The elf usually moves to a different spot each night. Sometimes he doesn't because he gets stuck. If you set the bar low, they still love it. We don't really play up the he's always watching angle. But if the kids want something specific for Christmas, I remind them to ask the elf to kindly pass along the message to Santa. Sometimes the elf brings random candy. Basically, it's not the best or worst thing. As with most everything in parenting, you can make it what you want. It's fun to add a little joy for them, and I don't take it too seriously. Thank you for writing in. This is what I mean. I always learn from you guys. The people that take the time to write in will always elaborate in a way that makes sense to me and makes me not feel like the consensus is the extreme. So I think that's valid too. It's just I'm comforted to know that some of you seem to feel like it's feasible to find middle ground. And it's not even just about the elf. This spans a lot of other topics that has I could get into a whole religious discourse even, or whether it's Santa or God or the elf or whoever. I think there's a bigger conversation here. However, yeah, love that. Thank you for writing in. This one says, as cute and magical as Elf on the Shelf can be, I don't have it in me as a parent to maintain that all year long. The amount of times I've forgotten tooth fairy money is enough evidence alone that I shouldn't be doing something that has to change every night. Here's my modified version of Elf on the Shelf that we do for my 2 boys, currently 5 and 8. Our elf visits on one night and one night only. On the last night of November, we leave a basket of old and broken toys the kids have picked out that they don't play with anymore. The elf visits and takes those toys back to the North Pole, where Santa can use his magic to fix them and give them to other little boys and girls. I like that. In return, the elf leaves them their Christmas boxes. These boxes have new Christmas pajamas so they can wear them all month long, a Christmas book, their advent calendar. Why do I feel like crying? I really like this. This is something that would have excited me as a kid. Christmas, what? It's really late. A Christmas book, their advent calendars, a new ornament, and then usually something we can craft and bake together. This kicks off the month of December, gets toys out of my house, and the magic of the elf is still there. It has worked great for our family, and when my kid asks why our elf doesn't stay, because inevitably they will have friends that talk about their elf, I just say that parents can write a letter to Santa and pick an elf that works best for their family. Hope this might help give a new take on the shelf dilemma. I thank you so much for writing in. I do think that's helpful, and I feel glad I get to share your input with the masses. I think it's really interesting to hear a cross-section of opinions and ideas, because I really like that. To have it's Thanksgiving, then you have the beginning of December event. December to remember. Happy Haunted Days. You have an event the beginning of December. That's kind of how I felt. We did St. Nicholas Day. Is that December 4th or something? And we'd put out our shoes and my mom, I guess, would just put candy in them. But it was so exciting. And I don't remember, friends being why did they do that? I have my own family culture, And I really like that. I was adamant I would never do Elf on the Shelf for my own kids after watching my friend deal with the stress. I even got roped in when she went on vacation and realized she didn't move the elf before they left, so she had me go to her house while they were gone to create a scene for the elf so the kids would come home to the elf moved. And while I was happy to help, that's wild. Then I actually had children. My twins are only 15 months old, and I'm not worried about it yet, but next year I think the elves will make an appearance. Oh, you're going to have one for each? Seeing the joy in their faces when they see something they love is worth every oh shit moment I'm sure I'll have when I inevitably forget to move the elves. Right now, those looks are pretty much reserved for Miss Rachel and the bubble machine, but when they finally understand Christmas magic, I want them to experience it to the fullest. I'll add it to the list of long, hot parenting takes I've had to eat my words now that I'm actually a parent. I appreciate writing in because we're probably in a similar phase where I have a lot of energy to start these things, but have not experienced the burden of having to maintain them or perform them solely, especially if they were my idea. And thank you for writing in. This one says, my son is 2.5, so I was thinking of skipping the elf this year because I don't think he'd get it, so why start early with something so high effort? Anywho, my niece is 4 and she was starting to have a tantrum the other day, and my sister-in-law whips out her phone and a Santa FaceTime app. She called Santa right then and said, then and there to see if my niece was behaving. And he chatted with her, and like creepy magic, she was immediately captivated and the tantrum was halted in its tracks. I don't know if it was just pre-recorded with some general spacing to allow time to answer or AI listening back to respond appropriately, but my jaw was on the floor. And it gave me, okay, I was going to say, I don't like that. And it gave me the ick a little. Like from mid-November, late December, at any sign of a toddler meltdown, you get an unsolicited FaceTime from an old man to make you calm down. I don't know. No, I do know. Listen, do what you like what you do, but I don't know. Like I said earlier, we're all going through it. And if that has helped you at some point, like, I don't know your journey. I think for the most part, we're all just doing our best. But I gotta say, gang, that is tricky to teach a kid when they're having a big reaction that a stranger will appear on a screen like a cop, to like monitor, to like police their behavior. That's not Santa's magic. That feels like the surveillance people are talking about as a parenting tool. Like, I mean, when people compare Elf on the Shelf to a police state, I was kind of like, wait, what? And I say that as a person in Chicago the past few months, where it has been like a harrowing dystopian nightmare of a situation. I could not have a more profound concern for things that genuinely resemble that. And Elf on a Shelf, to me, I was like, I don't know. I feel like I would actually say this sort of app to me is kind of like that extreme of what people must be talking about. And I don't know if this is normal, and maybe that's what people are getting at is that this stuff's really being used to intervene, like with regular behavioral stuff, and feels like we've gamified emotional regulation. And Santa as like a tantrum cop, but maybe I'll eat my words. IDK. I also have like no rules when we're like traveling or like trying to do something with family and people we don't get to see often. Also, can we just talk about like, how you have like the sweetest, funniest, brightest, most amazing kid ever? And if you don't live near family, you only see them during really concentrated times. What does it require to see family? Travel. What does travel do to a 2-year-old? Like it's haywire. Like the second we like go to a new place, I feel like my kid will get sick, be underslept, overslept. The nap times are off. Like we're just eating like pouches and snacks. I'm having trouble like finding things we'll eat at restaurants. I just like want to be able to like calm down and interact with people. And he's fine for the most part, but like, yeah, when I'm trying to enjoy it, it's like I want to catch up with people too and see family. But it's like we're spending so much time, like I'm just trying to get him to nap because I'm like, if he doesn't nap, this is going to be bad. But then sometimes I'm like, I think it might be worse that I spent my entire afternoon trying to set up a circumstance where I forced this nap than if he just never did. I don't even know anymore. I don't need to get into my issues, but toddler tantrums are hard. Parents are desperate. I get desperate. If something works, it's so tempting to use it. I am not parent of the year. I mean, listen, I am having a bit of a problem right now where I am somewhat of a briber. But I also am like, if these phases are quick, I sometimes need quick fixes. And if my kid is having trouble getting out of his comfort zone, I know he'll enjoy doing something once he does it. And so I put a car there, and then he'll go to the car and forget that he's more interested in the car than he is afraid of doing something new. Like, not only is that easier and faster than a soliloquy with a Vince Lombardi quote about getting out of his comfort zone, I don't know. It's like I could learn all about how to script this, but then in 2 weeks he'll be in a different phase where he's like, Wreck-It Ralph. Who is that? I've never seen that film. This is why I don't give parenting advice. Let's thank a couple more advertisers, shall we? And, stay on the line. It's about to get juicy. I know what you're all thinking. Kate, how are you going to explain the birth of Jesus to your 2-year-old child, given your fraught relationship with organized religion? And don't worry, I will answer that question shortly that nobody asked. But for now, let's see. Who should we thank? I'm so grateful to all of these wonderful advertisers that provide support for this show so I can do this for a living, and who have such great holiday gifts for you and yours that I hope you support and use our code. That's how Be There in 5 stays on air. This episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. The gift of better sleep, truly. I mean, crafted from bamboo, Cozier's bamboo sheets have a soft feel. They keep you cozy without overheating. I'm currently sleeping on seasonal Christmas tree ones I just bought for myself. They help you sleep several degrees cooler, which is huge for me. Some rooms in this house are too hot. Others have vaulted ceilings and are too cold. We only have one HVAC zone. I don't need to get into that right now, but it's really frustrating. And I just appreciate the bamboo sheets for accommodating everybody or experiencing all of the above. Perfect for snuggling on winter nights and waking refreshed for the holiday mornings ahead. They also have this bubble cuddle blanket I see everywhere on social media, and I love too. I have a couple of them. It has this textured bubble design and this super soft fur, and it's double-sided and weighty with a plush pile. It just makes me feel like I'm engulfed in a warm hug. And it is the perfect throw blanket. It's the icing on the cake for movie nights, snuggling by the fire, touch of luxury to any room. I'm obsessed. And I just think Cozy Earth, like, it is a hub for whoever on your list deserves a gift that helps them relax. You know, like bath towels and robes. They've got sheets. They've got PJs that come in longs for us tall gals. They've got really like cute jogger sets I always wear to the airport because of said viscose from bamboo situation that, you know, helps temperature regulate on airplanes because you never know what you're going to get. Whether it's pajamas or loungewear, bedding, and beyond, it creates joy that lingers well past the holidays because I love this brand. I spend a lot of money with this brand. And when the holidays wind down, the thing you crave the most is rest, and those are the gifts that keep on giving. And that's exactly what Cozy Earth delivers. Luxury comfort, and what makes home the best place to be. There's a 100-night sleep trial, so you can try them out. If you don't love it, return them hassle-free. But trust me, I do not think you'll want to. And a 10-year warranty, because once you feel this level of comfort, you'll want it to last a decade. So give the gift of everyday luxury this holiday season. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code BeThereIn5 for up to 40% off. Just be sure to place your order by December 12th for guaranteed Christmas delivery. Listening after the 12th, don't worry, my code still works year-round for 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here at Be There in 5. Thanks to Cozy Earth. Who needs Elf on the shelf when you've got food in your pantry? This episode is brought to you by Hungry Fruit. No, but seriously, as a busy parent and podcaster and, you know, just person who doesn't feel like I always have like the most spare time to be grocery shopping and meal planning, and it's not something that like I particularly thrive doing. It's been such a game changer to do my weekly food shopping with Hungry Root, and it shops for me and delivers groceries that fit my health goals, dietary preferences, budget. It's not like a meal kit thing where you're delivered like specifically measured out ingredients for one specific recipe. It delivers to you whole groceries, but provides recipes that go along with those whole groceries that are usually really simple 3-4 ingredient recipes. So if you want to make that, you can. But if you have like a busy week and don't really feel like it and don't get around to it, you're not left with like a quarter of a parsnip and not knowing what to do with it. You'd be getting the whole parsnip, in which case I still don't know what you do with it, but that's the example I chose and I've got to double down. But unlike other food delivery companies, Hungry Root has over 1,000 grocery items, smoothies, sweets, kid snacks, salad kits, ready-to-eat meals. That much variety, it's easy to find options that fit everyone's taste and nutrition goals. They have this like smart cart technology too that'll get to know you and recommend groceries tailored to your taste and needs. Mine is figured out that I like having ready-to-eat snacks, you know, like hummus and pretzel type things or easy snacks for my kid. You can really pick any dietary need you have, which is also nice, especially for like allergy families. And Hungry Root holds all its food to high standards, screening out for over 200 additives if that's something that's important to you. And with it being the busiest time of year, there's like even less time than ever and available brain power for grocery shopping, especially if you're having your Elf on a Shelf zip line across the kitchen on dental floss. Hungry Root not only helps save money by cutting down on food waste, but it can save you a trip on the cold, which for me here in the Midwest is ideal, by delivering all you need right to your door each week. Most recently, I was sent like grass-fed ground beef patties, a grass-fed ribeye steak, a taco seasoning blend, a zucchini, salsa, cheddar cheese, a smoked applewood smoked bacon, chicken breast, a Caesar salad kit, chili lemon chicken. I got these roasted red pepper hummus and chips, which I love, mango fruit jerky, delicious. Great grass-fed beef sticks my husband was into. Bread and butter pickle slices for me. Blueberries for Teddy. I got some sour cream and onion potato crisps. I was like, how do you know me so well? There's so many different ways you can use the food. And it's just like, it's such a relief to have like in my fridge some stuff I can eat and easily make, but also like snacks and fairly easy, ready to eat things if I need to, along with good snacks for my kid. And I just think that it's a great service that simplifies something that can be an overwhelming load for many of us. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5 and use code BeThereIn5. That's hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5, code BeThereIn5 to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. So anyways, this text says, I fully support what is fun and special for you, but Elf on the Shelf was not something I anticipated enjoying taking on. When my son started asking why I don't have one, I copped out and told him the landlord didn't allow it. See, these are perks to being renters, fellow millennials. Oh, that's funny. Whatever you do, I'm excited for the next few years for your family. Teddy's coming to the age where it feels the most magical for him and for you throughout his eyes. Enjoy. Well, that's nice. Thank you. This one says, my hot take is that people put way too much stock in the elf and Santa. Personally, we don't do the elf because I do think surveillance aspect is creepy and adds to the labor of the holidays. And we do Santa, but your gifts from Santa have nothing to do with being good. And it is not the only time you will lie to your kids, so that argument never made sense to me. Okay, thank you for saying that, because I feel like so much of parenting is lying, reframing, or like kind of avoiding something that, because you have to like pace their level of knowledge processing maturity. Like there's going to be so many questions they have that you're going to not answer directly. I don't know. The story I told with my mom saying, I'll tell you why the dollhouse was there on your wedding day. There's not an ounce of my being that's like, my mom lied to me. I'm like, no, my mom was preserving the childhood wonder she knew would escape me at any moment, and doing the best she could with the answer she could think of on the fly, which is very funny now, because obviously I was going to find out by the time I got married. It's interesting you brought up the elf Santa God connection. I wonder if families who love the elf are also religious. A lot of them are, I've gathered. Bottom line is, kids love Christmas, and they're going to love whatever version of Christmas you give them. You can go over the top with everything or keep it simple. As long as they get some presents and get to eat their weight in cookies, they'll be happy. My favorite memories of Christmas as a kid were after we opened all the presents, and everyone just sits around and does nothing. And at some point you have to kind of clean up because grandparents are coming over. Probably don't remember a lot of the labor my mom did for me, but I do remember the feelings of that day. I think that goes back to the piece about credit that I was going to say, but I didn't want to seem like I was dismissing that very valid feeling, because so much of parenting is thankless. That I don't know the ins and outs of the labor performed by my parents. I may not have line item ever been able to directly thank them for those things, but I hope they know, and I need to reiterate to them that I may not know exactly what all went into it, but the memories and the feelings that labor created has never left me, in a way that so much about life can be so forgettable. And I think the important thing is, like she said, it's not like the more work you put in, the more memorable it'll be. My memories aren't even about anything elaborate, like gifts or anything like material. It's carving out a time of year that's different, that feels different than others. You know what I mean? It's less about like anything grand. Like that's not it at all. It just felt different, and everyone was in a good mood, and the vibes were good, and the meals were delicious, and there was lots of sweets. And I loved twinkle lights, and I loved Christmas movies. I love going to pick out a tree. I love chilly weather. I love scarves and mittens. Just like general energy of the season, paired with how much fun it was to have these traditions, like the bell ringing at the top of the stairs, opening one present on like Christmas Eve, the ritual of like going to church and coming home and eating dinner, and my grandma would sleep over. And like these aren't things that cost money or like really or anything that's crazy, but like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I appreciate your email. She also said, we are the ones comparing ourselves to others. I've never once heard my kids compare what we do to what other families do, except in an observational way, like, oh, so-and-so's going to California for Christmas. They never compare Christmas presents or wine that other families have elf on the shelf or don't do Santa. They're not online. They don't talk about these things with their friends. They talk about Minecraft and make 6-7 jokes. They don't care, and we care way too much. Okay, this is in my intro what I was saying. I think what I'm going to learn is that kids are like forensically comparing notes about what their elves do, and that must be why we're so intense about it, but maybe not. I've been fascinated by how Elf on the Shelf has evolved. It seems like it started as light, festive Christmas fun, but like many social trends, it feels a bit out of control. The part I can't wrap my head around is the premise. Is the elf supposed to monitor a child's behavior, yet it's the one causing mischief and playing pranks? Thank you. The logic gap there is wild to me. But again, the reindeer with the incandescent biological nose. A lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't blame them for not reaching the conclusion, but I agree. It's nonsensical. And this is why again, the haircut. Like, why do we have a manic pixie dream girl? I think that the elf that snitches to Santa should be more of a talk to the manager mean girl haircut, or at least a fuck ass bob. Like, she's just too whimsy, and I feel like the elf's personality traits, like the mischief, doesn't make sense to me, because it should be a person that's like no fun without reason, Hey, Kate, I see a lot of parallels between With Love, Megan and Christmas Everett. I'm pretty sure it was on your episode covering the first season of the show that you mentioned it's okay to want to put effort into stuff even if others don't want to. The way it's talked about, like some measurement of goodness is really interesting, especially in reference to this all-encompassing Christmas season. Like there's this underlying villainization of influencers, et cetera, churning out the Christmas content. I think some is obviously justified consumerism, encouraging people to buy a Ralph Lauren Christmas. But when it comes to craft content, it makes me feel alive. I love going hard for the homemade, hand-done holidays. I mean, maybe it's part of my upbringing, but Martha Stewart was my god. Maybe it's the thrill of achieving something or knowing that you can make a little magic if you just put in a little effort. I guess that's just a long-winded way to say that I am pumped for With Love's holiday special. I actually haven't watched it. I do feel that way. Like, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, it kind of bothers me that, like, crafty stuff can be seen as, like, performative and competitive when, like, the way I do not care if, like, some other mom thinks I did something. Like, I literally love making stuff, and I love when my kid's excited and surprised. And like, it's just not deeper than that. But the idea that like, yeah, even getting funny comments when I post my acrylic marker banners, the idea that like by default, something I did that I just was proud of and thought was beautiful and worked hard on, like as if it exists to make somebody else feel inadequate. Like I hate that logic. And that's just so far from what it is. But it's understandable we feel that way given this like performative parenting environment. But I'm with you. I mean, I like fun stuff. I like an elaborate holiday setup. I saw one Elf on the Shelf reel today that made me sick to my stomach. It was so weird. And the ones that make me sick to my stomach are the ones that have to do with like the weird mischief and like causing a mess. And this one was like while her daughter was sleeping, she cut like holes in her clothes and then made an outfit for the elf on the patches of fabric from her clothes. And I'm like, this is so wildly inappropriate, so creepy. It would like do something involving the removal of like fabric from her body. I like still feel nauseous over it. Anyway, thank you for writing in. Hi, Kate and Courtney. I have a hot take, controversial opinion on Santa. It stems from a memory I had when I was around 3rd grade. That year, my parents put a shiny gold ornament on the tree in the shape of a key, tied it with a red yarn with Santa's key and a jolly Santa face etched onto it. I hadn't seen the key before, so I asked where it came from. My parents told me it was just dropped off at our house as a special gift from Santa. At 8 or 9, I was probably aging out of Santa a bit, but I can't remember specifically if I'd ever questioned before if he was real or not. However, when they told me I'd been hand-selected by Santa himself to receive a special gift early, I was skeptical. Almost every day I would ask my parents things like, are you sure it was really from Santa? Why would he give me an ornament? And how do you know he was the one that mailed it here? They would reassure me that yes, it was Santa because I was special and it had his return address on it. My feelings even now surrounding this memory are icky, uncomfortable, off. I knew it wasn't true, and even as I kept pressing my parents, they kept insisting it was. I would pull the ornament off the tree, look at it from all angles, and deduce that it could be from Santa, but there was no proof. I wanted proof. And they couldn't provide any, not even the package with the supposed return address. The reason I felt so uncomfortable and still do now is because it was such a blatant lie that I had snuffed out, given my parents an out by asking questions, and then essentially was gaslit. That sounds so dramatic as I write it, but because I hesitate to even bring Santa because of it, I hesitate to even bring Santa into my daughter's life. When I brought this up to my husband, he suggested we still do Santa, but if she questions it, we just tell her the truth so she hopefully doesn't have the same feelings I did. If I felt passionately about Santa, I would totally go that route, but I truly don't see the need for Santa. I think Christmas can still be magical without a bearded man who should be in jail for breaking and entering, plus the economic climate. How are we going to buy presents from us and Santa? Oh, I didn't get that's a good point too. That's another low maintenance tradition. We did not get presents from my parents and Santa. It was Santa, and then it was just my parents. You know, like there was kind of a delineation. I think there's years where it was like a bit mixed, or like my mom will still like kind of like cheekily say it's from Santa. But my mom's like an interesting character who like doesn't want credit. Like she gives credit to Santa for things that like we skipped the elf on the shelf tradition. Okay, that's a really interesting perspective. That I didn't have that experience, but that doesn't mean other kids don't. I don't, guys. Here's the thing: I didn't come into this episode prepared to talk about the Santa thing because I don't have advice here, and I do not know how you handle that. In my head, it's kind of a rite of passage to slowly piece things together, and I do agree with you that at a point of interrogation, like a conversation should be had. And I don't know if it's like the constant insistence it was Santa at that age was wise. But I've also seen stuff from parents who like whose kids asked and they like wish they hadn't like crushed them, and that like it's kind of an easier process to like hear from a peer or slowly piece it together. Like I really don't know the answer to that. But I really appreciate your perspective. My kids were already established with Santa before Bonus Elf became popular. I've had to explain why we don't do it because other school families do and why the elves are available on the end caps. But my nephew was a little older, and apparently one of the major pieces of established elf lore is that touching the elf makes it lose its magic and way to communicate with the North Pole. Once he touched the elf when he was 4.5, moved it across the room during a tantrum when my sister-in-law brought up that the elf was watching his behavior. Later that night, he proceeded to have a panic attack and crisis that he ruined the elf's life. It was a lot of childhood existential dread or self-loathing that came from a newly manufactured tradition. Also from a religious lens, the proliferation of non-secular replacements, Shepherd on the Shelf, Mary on the Mantle, Mensch on the Bench is fascinating. I've never heard of Shepherd on the Shelf or Mary on the Mantle. I know Mensch on a Bench from Shark Tank. Also, there's like Martha Stewart on a porch and Snoop on a stoop. There's like funny ones you can get to like have more fun with this. But yeah, that makes me feel really weird and I don't like that. Thank you for sharing with the class. This one says, I chose not to do Elf on a Shelf mainly for labor. I love a good tradition, but this one seemed like a burden and I have 2 pretty sensitive girls, so I thought they wouldn't love the whole daily surveillance aspect. I told them that Santa checks with parents if they need an elf, and I told him no because you were always so well behaved, and kind of like Jedi mind tricking them into it. But I do think the surveillance thing is unique to this generation's kids. Since she started pre-K at 4, my now 6-year-old has been very aware of security cameras from seeing them in her school, since we have a Ring doorbell and indoor camera that is up, but only if we're not home for a long period of time. She checks for cameras wherever we go and frequently tells me she doesn't feel safe if she can't find a security camera. That's interesting. When I think about it, I get it. She's run through lockdown drills her whole life since her daycare had them. I just feel like there is a baked-in sense of danger that kids these days have that we didn't. So basically, Santa and his elves watching when we were kids was cute, but now there's a sinister bend to it because the world just generally doesn't feel safe. I'm not sure I'm explaining this well. No, you are, but it's hard for me to watch the anxiety placed on my kids by the world. Heck, probably by me and their dad that just didn't exist for me as a kid. I guess the 90s milk carton missing kids seemed less in your face than cameras all over your school and monitors in the main office. I mean, this year they did have a full-time security guard at school, which is just shocking to the girl who would get dropped off at the mall with a quarter to call home to get picked up when she was 10. All of this to say that even Elf on the Shelf can bring out these feelings, and I totally get the anti-surveillance bend you're seeing in your stories. No, that's so helpful because I again, was kind of like, really? I don't know. Like, I understand the, like, behavioral surveillance element, but, like, the institutional surveillance connection I wasn't always drawing. But I appreciate that, and as a person who's obviously, like, very sensitive to school shootings, and I think felt that kind of embedded privilege of safety where I just never in my life felt or second-guessed a public space until my entire sense of comfort and safety in public was profoundly compromised, and I've never entered one the same since. And it's interesting to think about kids growing up with such an awareness of that as a possibility, even as a scenario that can happen that they're preparing for before their brains can really like process what they're even doing, because you can't assess probability at that age. And it's kind of like when I learned to stop, drop, and roll and stuff, like I just spent all of my days convincing myself like there was going to be a house fire. And I actually did have a lot of anxiety about getting kidnapped and someone climbing through my window. I don't know. But my point is, anytime I heard of something like that in a disproportionate fashion, the younger I was and the less I understood the actual like probability and reality, the more I obsessed over it. And thinking about like moving through the world as an anxious or sensitive, kid, it's heartbreaking. And yeah, I appreciate that context. Hi, Kate. I met this person doing NBC News. Cool. I wish I could do that stuff. Like, I'm a commentator with no commentary outside of my basement if I lived in New York or LA. I love Chicago, but it's a weird town to be like a podcaster in. Anyways, I wish I could do it more often. She was with her client who was on there for a segment. And her name's Amy. Amy actually addressed this very topic on the news and Today's Show in the past. The bottom line from Amy: use elf for fun and mischief, but not as a threat, which can cause anxiety for kids who already struggle with impulse control and making good decisions. Plus, what happens on December 26th when the elf is no longer watching. On a similar note, Amy is also a big believer in what she calls Santa equity, not having Santa take credit for the big-ticket, high-value items. This protects kids whose families can't afford lavish gifts and presents for comparison online and at school when kids talk about gifts. Also, I wanted to share this true story that happened to me with my daughter, combining the elf and this idea of equity. She was playing in the neighborhood and came running to my house to announce that our neighbor's elf had appeared for the first time that season and left a gift, an all-expense-paid trip to Disney. She was just desperate to see if our elf had arrived, hoping he might do the same thing. It was a tough moment in our house, and I had to sit her down and talk about why that wouldn't be happening. I don't like that. That makes me feel sad. It's like, on the one hand, that is life, and whether Santa or spring break, like, yeah, of course, you notice like differences, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking at my parents sometimes being like, why are we going to Ohio for spring break? Blow this popsicle stand. Jenny's going on a Mary-Kate and Ashley cruise. Like, you don't understand money. You don't understand. I'm sure as a parent, it's really hard to explain why some people do some things and others don't. I don't know the right answer to that, but it's a helpful perspective to keep in mind. And you know what's interesting? I feel like, sorry I'm talking so much about my own parents, but I think the more I get into this, I think about what they did when I didn't understand at the time, but now I really understand it. And like, I just appreciate that they thought about other people, because we did a big Disney trip once, and I went back for a volleyball tournament, because who amongst us didn't over anticipate our tenure in a serious sport and attend an AAU championship at the wide world of sports. But yeah, it was like, it was so fun. It was our big presence. I've never been the commercial about being too excited to sleep. I could not believe that I was going to Disney World. Could not believe it. I was so excited when we found out. And I remember my parents saying, like, please don't tell any of your classmates. Like, let's just keep this between us as a family. And if people ask you about it when you get back, like, whatever. But they made it a point, like, don't tell your classmates. Like, not everybody gets to go. I just remember feeling like disappointed, but I'm such a rule follower. I listened to them, and now I'm like impressed by them thinking about other kids in this moment. And I'm always wrestling with this as having kids later and having the financial means, to do some of, not all of, like, what your kid wants, and you like live to excite them to have the quality time, to have the memories. It's like, if you have the means to do stuff, why wouldn't you? But genuinely, like, I think that so much of my personality was developed in the longing for things. My entire book, One in a Millennial, is about like observing the ways other people lived that were different than me, and examining that gap, and longing for clothes at Limited Too and American Girl doll things, and Abercrombie paper thin layers. And like, I really thought about that a lot when I was doing the final edit of my book, and I was pregnant. I was thinking about becoming a parent, and like, my parents gave us everything we could ever need, and I always felt safe and comfortable, but they didn't give us whatever we wanted. We couldn't do whatever we wanted at all. I think that friction of like there being some distance between you always living your most optimal lifestyle, is that boredom, that tension is like where kids kind of find themselves sometimes. And a life completely distracted by the best of the best at all times hardly sounds like character development, Anyway, guys. This one says, howdy, I'm a childless millennial. I have no dog in this fight. Even still, I sort of feel shame by the amount of creativity and effort I see on Instagram, especially from influencers who are not beholden to corporate America's schedule. This is the hard part about parenting influencers, is they're performing parenting as if they are parenting when they're on the clock working, because their job is content generation. So they're not doing that to parent. They're doing that, I guess, simultaneously, to kind of parent, but it's really more about the content. But you're not clocking that when you're scrolling. It just looks like parents are doing this with their ample spare time, or they can multitask better than you somehow, or whatever the hell else, when it's like, no, they probably have like on the clock childcare that gives them time to do parenting things. They're not actively parenting while doing parenting things, I grew up without Elf on the shelf, and Christmas was still magical. Sure, there were songs that reinforced that Santa is watching. There was lots of discussion about getting cold when I was naughty, but no real long-term damage done. Agree. I think now kids are so bubble-wrapped and therapized in their actual surveillance tools that a lot of moms are projecting emotional damage onto the kids. In the broader context of religion, I want to share something a friend's husband recently said to me. She and I are both Catholic, and he grew up some other version of Christianity. It sparked a long conversation about religion and how much is too much. He was very religious as a kid, attending school after Sunday school, religious summer camps. But he also explained that he grew up pretty poor in a single-parent household with a mother who was a recovering drug addict without much outside support. He said religion and God was a free babysitter. The notion of God as always watching helped keep him out of trouble and helped keep things under control for his mom. I really appreciate you making that point. I love when you guys bring up something that kind of stops me in my tracks and complicates my train of thought, because like that was just, there's just a moment of pause for me to be like, you know what? There is a part of this that is like the way we criticize, whether it's the elf or Santa or God or whatever, as like a surveillance tool to, behavior modification tool, when we should be doing whatever other parenting tactic and having them develop their own moral compass for like what's right and wrong, good and bad. And like, I get all of it. And I'm highly skeptical of the surveillance stuff. I don't really like the people that are really intense about the elf watching your behavior, or that story about the Santa FaceTime. Like, that's so creepy to me. My argument remains like, that's always been part of Santa's brand and I never overthought it. It's easy to critique different parenting tools from a position of privilege when you have the time and energy and money and support to parent in other ways. But if you're a single mom working 2 jobs and you need your 8-year-old not to do something dangerous while you're doing something else, you're distracted. Like, maybe Santa is watching, the elf is watching, the God is watching. Like, maybe that's a tool you need. And these, like, so much parenting advice can be aimed at people with resources. And, God, Santa, like, these are free tools. They don't require a therapist or the ability to work through a tantrum for 45 minutes. And as a person in the most privileged position, like, I find it so overwhelming to like even know how to handle these things as a parent. They're not supernatural to me. And I anyway, the thing that spooks me sometimes is I find myself in the moment not knowing how to respond correctly to my toddler. And then I think it's perhaps more dystopian that I've developed a reflex to distrust my own instincts so much and favor a parenting style almost as if it's a design aesthetic. And I'm, it's 2010 and I'm at Z Gallery thinking I'm going to double down on Hollywood Regency decor. Like, no, you have you and your instincts and the fulcrum of who you are and how you want to parent. I think you have to trust your own instincts to a degree. But the content mill of parenting stuff makes you feel like every interaction you have needs to be scripted out. It's kind of crazy. I can't ever remember the right thing to say, and I don't think they're all that bad. I think there's so many different ways you could look at this, and the reality is some parents are trying to survive, and these frameworks assume you have resources, you have options, and I think for some families, these tools aren't about control and all of the like worst parts of it. They might just be about survival, and like that's important to remember too. As long as it's not like negligence, you want everyone to be safe. But actually an 8-year-old was like probably babysitting in the 90s. Gosh, guys, I feel like I'll get so far into these and I'm like, shoot, did we learn anything? Was that a good use of your time? And I really appreciate those of you that wrote in, and I apologize for the tangents. There's just endless things we can explore. It was like a deeper through line than just talking about the elf itself. It's like the elf is a mirror for the self. I'm always asking myself, like, what is it? Why do we feel responsible for the manufacturing of childhood wonder? And if we don't do it, that your kids won't have it. When I just think wonder is such a default setting. And I'm having trouble not optimizing and occupying my kid at every turn and wanting him to always be happy and doing the most. And I feel bad when he's squirming and I'm not paying attention to him. And it's just such a slippery slope that I really do get. So I'm trying to like catch myself, because I do the thing where I'm like, I'll just do it. It's fine. Or I'll like start something and then finish it just to finish it. But it's like, I don't need to be doing this. And yeah, I'm trying to like, I don't know, create a system where I'm realistic about what I have the capacity for. I think one of my favorite things about parenting is it just connected me with a lighter version of myself. Like, has to get on the floor and like feel the earth and do things that are physical and silly and goofy. And as a person that is so in my head, yeah, parenting is so in my body, and having him was, and interacting with him is, and playing. And I think there's some things I can do that like really spark his imagination and connect us. But I also, one of my favorite parts about parenting is like, sure, there's wonder to be found in a new Hot Wheel, but there's wonder in a puddle. There's wonder in a bear hug. This kid looks at his screw caps of his pureed fruit pouches like they are baubles and amulets. Like, he looks at them like he performed the Louvre heist. And he, scored the ultimate goal of a random-ass purple sharp top that I'll later step on, of some sort of like acai oatmeal mash that honestly sounds disgusting. But my God, do the children love the pouches. And if I'm being honest, I've had a kind of a long weekend. I kind of have my own meltdown, a moment of dysregulation, which I don't feel like I have that often, but like, I don't know. I need to chill out. And I also need to like be more comfortable with him losing it in front of people. And I feel like I do way too much to control his behavior, just so like he's comfortable, everyone around us is uncomfortable. I'm not a gal who I don't know. I don't like my baby losing his shit in front of people. I know it's what they do, but I hate it. It's too much for me. Again, this is about me. So I'm just trying to figure out, it's like how to enjoy things and be flexible with like toddlers, just lack of predictability and not drive myself insane trying to troubleshoot to prevent or intervene in those moments. Like, especially when I'm like by myself or like traveling or whatever, because I can't control it all. And I'm just so not used to toddlers. And like, I think it's almost weirder when they can kind of talk and express to you what they want, but like what they're doing doesn't match it. This kid is telling me what's wrong as he wants to go play cars on the deck, and we are playing cars on the deck, and it just not a foot, and I'm quite cold. Just losing his mind. I was just like, dude, this was yesterday. First time I sat in my car just to take a breather, which actually like I probably should do more often. Oh, and sorry, I ended up cutting out this. Nobody asked. I start to go off after that last question into like, how will I explain Christmas and Jesus to my kid? And how I've been thinking about this, and I was like, I feel like that's kind of a Patreon discussion. That's if this wasn't already a touchy subject, let's end it with my hot takes about Jesus and me referring to him as the original Christopher Poppinkins that now is being sidelined with the elf to survey your behavior. And I'm all like, I feel weird that this elf is making people want to behave well, but it's just in the name of like consumerism and toys and getting presents. And meanwhile, like my parenting philosophy is like bribery by Hot Wheels. So like I literally have no ground to stand on. I'm trying to figure things out, you guys. But also I do want you to text 775 Hey Beth. Like it's iMessage my Google Voice. You can also leave me a voicemail. And tell me your whatever example you have of like not wrapping gifts or not doing holiday cards, like the thing that takes up too much time that you don't enjoy, that doesn't have value, that you eliminated, that has made your holiday season better. I think ultimately, like the other thing too is like if it's too much, if it's so high labor, if it's not working anymore, if you're feeling like I'm tired and this isn't fun anymore and this used to be fun, like I don't want that to feel like a moral failure. I want that to be information you can act on. And I think that there's a lot of ways your kids are going to feel loved that exist outside of the labor you can perform at Christmas time. And I think if it's fun for you, you have time for it, do it. But don't be afraid to like modify things too if you can. And I don't mean to be like preachy. And I liked the advice of the person who was like, have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. Approach it casually. And if you mess up, blame it on the elf. Like the whole thing's a racket anyway. I promise you, your kid does not need you to be depleted to know that they're loved. And if the elf doesn't get up for days, you know, they're not going to feel less loved. Again, that's on her. I almost think like if we're going to play this game with this elf we kind of resent, like let's like blame the elf for stuff. Like let's make them the bad guy. Aren't they like the mischief makers? What if Holly's playing a long game of freeze or mannequin, like the movie Mannequin, or, you know, mannequins? If she hasn't moved, I say we don't panic. We sit down as a family and give her a performance review. Because we did hire her based on our family-specific needs. Maybe time to swap her out. There's a lot to be learned about HR in the I don't know, you guys. I have nothing helpful to say whatsoever. I think that like the parenting content machine we're all like on the receiving end of really does make us think every micro interaction we have with our kid as having the most macro results. And I don't think that's the case. I think they're more resilient than we give them credit for. I think that they can adjust and they can understand how we do things different than other families. And there are going to be times where they're going to be comparing themselves and it's not going to be fair. And that has to be okay too. And I don't know. I just don't want anyone to like drive themselves crazy trying to do something that's supposed to be fun and meanwhile having no fun in the process, because your experience matters too. Your energy matters too. Your mood matters too. The thing that meant the most to me, I think, growing up, when I really think about it, it really didn't have as much to do with the commercial elements or the gifts or the creative details. It was like just doing something different and having a ritual where I could count on getting to do something different, and just different felt exciting. And in your childhood is so routine. And like, even if it's like getting to stay up late or movie night, you know, staying up past bedtime, or like being woken up one night and getting to go see the Christmas lights in your pajamas, or, you know, the elf comes occasionally or brings a fun game. Just special things here and there that are fun, that make your kids smile, that you do repeatedly and that they can look forward to. And it doesn't always have to cost money. Like, I really think that's all that matters. And something that I've learned about myself therapizing through my life over the years is I think the thing that I loved about the holidays the most as a sensitive person was people were in a good mood and people felt hopeful and people were having fun and the vibes were good. And I'm sensitive to the energy of a room. And I'm not telling you how to live your life, but it's something I think about often because I think that like parenting, planning, life wears on me and I can get in a really bad mood and it affects my energy. And like the worst is when I take on an ambitious project and I show up to something drained. And I'm like, then I walk away and I'm like, he never needed my dumb little illustrations. Like what probably would have had more fun was like a mom who like was well rested and present and like hanging out and not like hyper irritable. This is something I'm trying to work on. But just like never discount the value of your energy. And I don't think any of us would look back on our childhoods and be like, I wish our parents gave more and drove themselves into the ground so I could have had a nominal amount more of ambiguous Christmas magic. And I hope we can, offer up some tips, tricks, advice, things we dropped and ways just to get back a smidge of our time, or just fucking say no, opt out, not to put more responsibility on your shoulders or tell you the problem is you're doing too much. But like, it's kind of, that's why I brought up the bridesmaid thing earlier, is I think sometimes we forget like we do have more control than maybe we think. And the effort is the part that you can modify in ways that I don't think meaningfully always changes the outcome, you know? And I really appreciate all of your advice. And like, also the holidays don't have to be, holidays are hard for a lot of people. Like I love Christmas, but you don't have to. Your kids don't have to. A lot of holidays, there's things that happen beyond your control and they're just going to be off. There's one Christmas that my family has dubbed the time Katie ruined Christmas, TM, because I got dumped and I made it everybody's problem. I guess in conclusion, it's kind of like what I suspected was like, yeah, I got a lot of really hot takes on Instagram. I was kind of like, whoa. But then the emails were incredibly enlightening. And I think ultimately, like, I learned a lot during this episode. One, I forgot to move my elf 50% of the time. That pretty much told me everything I needed to know about why people feel so trapped by this tradition. I'm literally doing an episode about this elf. My literal job, still couldn't remember. And it's, the thing I learned from all of your shelf help that you sent in is, I think the core tension comes down to three things. I think I mentioned this earlier. The labor and mental load issue, another thing on the to-do list. Another thing that falls to moms, the like volume of times it's like supposed to be done to be aligned with proper canon. Like it's objectively ridiculous in terms of a labor load to like sell as a consumer good and tradition that parents should have to like fulfill by default. And I think social media has exacerbated it. I think the second is the surveillance and authority problem that we discussed in the job of the elf to explicitly like watch and report and the discomfort we feel and the reality of our kids and the time we're in. And like, if we want that for them, and how people like take it too far and are a little bit like creepy with how much it watches and just, like what it's teaching them and normalizing. And the third being the performance and authenticity problem. Like, who are we doing this for? Is it for kids? Is it for parents? Is it for content? Like, is it because we already feel obligated to do it and are like too proud to abandon it because it's not fun anymore, but we're worried about disappointing our kids? But do our kids even like it if they're desensitized to how like much we've done it and we keep having to one up it year over year and it's just getting old? There's a lot more that goes on, but like those are like the three biggest buckets I found things in. And now it makes sense to me why there's so much tense discourse about this online. And I get it. And like, I still fall somewhere in the middle. Like I want to be able to participate if it's a thing the kids are doing. And especially like that person be like, I'm a behavioral psychologist. I'm so opposed to this, but like, I'm not a monster. I went to Target. My daughter asked for it and said it was the only thing she wanted that year. It's like, what are you going to do? It's part of the cafeteria discourse. I'm not really sure. But I hope this provides like some healthy perspective that we learn from people that how you start is how you finish, to set the bar low. And like, I think big picture, it's kind of not just about the elf. The problem is we've been conditioned to believe that if we don't do it that way or the way other people do it or perform it elaborately or daily or Pinterest perfect, like we're in some way failing our kids, but like, it's just not true. I just keep it simple. And I, for one, think I'm better off from never having to walk downstairs to a marshmallow-related crime scene. I think some of these scenes are traumatizing, and honestly, I really don't like Elf on the Shelf-related content. And I think that's what's confusing about my interest in it, is like everything surrounding like the brand and the vibes and the hype for it, like it's a little off. You're not failing. You're a woman with shit to do who doesn't feel like spending her Tuesday night fancying an elf fly fishing ordeal in your downstairs toilet, or building a makeshift ski lift out of popsicle sticks at 11 p.m. I don't know if you're failing so much as you're like a human person that thinks these things sound objectively ridiculous and high labor and low return. And yes, I think they'd be fun in some ways, but I absolutely see how you do it up once, then you feel like you have to top it. And then the thing that once sparks joy, it became a source of disappointment where their faces kind of sink if they're not doing the craziest shit. Because they don't realize it's you. They think it's this whimsy elf who just started putting less effort into coming to see them. And I'm like, God, this really could, this would get messy so fast. So yeah, I'm interested in once a week. I'm interested in intermittent. I'm interested in, you never know when they're going to show up. And that's why Narwhal in the Hall knows how to ball. You know, more to come. There is more to come. It's a pretty obvious thing, I guess. Like, if you love the elf, if it brings you and yours joy, keep doing it. If you hate it and you feel stuck, modify it. Kill it off. Tell the kid your elf retired. Do the performance review. Tell the elf only comes on Saturday for older kids because it needs to visit younger kids now. Tell them your family does things differently. Like, I really think kids can handle it. When I think about it big picture, like it applies to so much more than just the elf. Like, think about how many things that in life you started doing that started as fun but became obligations, and you felt like it was too hard to sever ties from them. How many traditions do you maintain out of guilt or comparison rather than actual enjoyment? Anyways, I'm just asking myself, do things need to be this hard, or am I making them hard? For you guys, you probably have better regulatory skills than I do. I'm trying to find ways to make things easier. I'm trying to give myself permission to do less before it gets out of hand. And let's be honest, I already don't do that much. But yeah, it's always okay to do less, to do something differently, to opt out entirely. And I don't know. Like, I think that sometimes the best way to show up is to like be saying no a lot more to the stuff that's really draining, even if it's like allegedly for them, and they're not going to remember the elf you forgot to move. But like, I would remember if like I had parents that were stressed and miserable. And again, I'm not trying to shame you, but like, I think that that's something I'm trying to keep myself in check for. And that mattered to me. And I'm just, I guess, sharing that perspective. Because I think kids are more like perceptive to energy than maybe we think. And TLDR, I find time and time again, whenever I'm overcomplicating something, it's like the conclusion is always, you can do things your way. You can find peace and ownership and doing things your way, and knowing it's what works best for you, and other people's opinions really don't matter because they don't have a bearing on how your family operates. So you can do it, you can not do it at all, and both are completely valid. And while it might not always be that simple, it's worth to explore sometimes why things feel so hard. And some of it's not going to be necessarily our fault. But I do think sometimes, at least for me, it's absolutely my fault and I could be doing less. And yeah, I hope this was some shelf help. Because it was for me in terms of just like owning the way I want to do things and not feeling like I'm going to be like held to some bigger like standard or movement or thing that I'm not cooperating with, and it makes me a bad parent. It's like, no, like, let's just like the most important thing we could be doing is figuring out how to like make it manageable and actually have fun with it if you want to do it. But again, if you need permission to not do it, for the love of God, please don't. And if you need me in the meantime, I will be upstairs trying to figure out where the hell Holly is, because last I saw her, she was in Teddy's city bus, like Halloween costume, but she is not there anymore. I've been gone all day. And I don't know if she's compromised in Tugboat's crate. We'll see, gang. Oh my God, what if the joke was on me and she like is a magic elf and she like moved, or my husband played a prank on me? That would actually be awesome. Wow, I would be like, girl, all of a sudden to me, you're Michelle Williams post Dawson Creek in that pixie cut. Everything has changed. All right, you guys. Find me on Patreon. I have a story about Dancing with the Stars I need to tell you, in a long conversation I had with Julianne Hough at a very unassuming convention I went to randomly last weekend. Anyway, we're going to talk about, I also want to talk about the Secret Lives reunion that is so bad. Do not waste your time watching it. I'll just tell you how I feel about it. We'll do that on Patreon this week. And then next week on the main feed, we'll do Taylor Swift, like Eras Tour docuseries recap. Rate and review 5 stars, share with a friend. It makes such a difference. I'm so grateful for the privilege of your time. And as always, let me know your thoughts and I'll let you know mine. I'll be there in 5, I swear.